The board presentation slides froze mid-transition as the words sliced through the conference room. As our new CEO, my son Wesley will lead us into the next decade. My father-in-law Victor beamed with pride while gesturing toward my husband, who couldn't even meet my eyes. My fingertips went numb against the laptop keyboard. The presentation deck on the screen, the culmination of my 3 years revitalizing their failing business, now displayed Wesley's name where mine should have been. The promotion my father-in-law had promised me just last month. The position I'd earned by quadrupling their market share and modernizing their entire operation. Perhaps Natalie can continue supporting the team with her administrative talents, my mother-in-law Francine added, her voice dripping with false sweetness as several board members chuckled. The painful contrast between my Harvard MBA hanging in my office and her dismissal of me as glorified secretarial help made my temples throb. Wesley shifted in his chair, adjusted his tie, the one I'd helped him select this morning when he'd kissed me and whispered, "Today's going to change everything for us." I hadn't realized what everything meant until now. My name is Natalie. I'm 34 and a business strategist. This is the story of how I transformed a family betrayal into the most important business lesson of their lives. For 3 years, I'd been the silent architect behind Palmer Industries' resurrection. Victor had hired me to save the company from bankruptcy, impressed by my track record of revitalizing struggling businesses. What began as a consulting position quickly evolved when I identified critical weaknesses in their operational structure and outdated technology infrastructure. "We need someone who understands modern business," Victor had said back then, "someone who isn't trapped in the old ways of thinking." What he'd really meant was someone to do the work without receiving the credit. I'd designed new product lines, restructured debt, and negotiated partnerships that had pulled the company from the brink of collapse. Meanwhile, Wesley attended meetings sporadically, spending more time on golf courses than in boardrooms. Just last month, Victor had called me into his office, clapped a hand on my shoulder, and promised, "When I announce the new CEO at the quarterly meeting, this company will finally have the leadership it deserves." I'd believed him. I'd trusted family. What I hadn't known was that Francine had been orchestrating a different plan. The Palmer name must remain at the helm, she'd apparently told Victor, according to Wesley's assistant who'd overheard their conversation and discreetly informed me last week. I'd cultivated good relationships with the staff, which is how I received this critical information before the announcement. As the meeting concluded and board members filed out, congratulating Wesley with handshakes and backslaps, I remained seated. My presentation notes spread before me. Strategies Wesley wouldn't understand, much less implement. My husband approached cautiously, his expression a mixture of guilt and excitement. "Nat, I wanted to tell you, but Dad insisted we keep it quiet until..." "Until what, Wesley?" "Until you could blindside me in front of the entire board." My voice remained low, controlled, betraying none of the fury building beneath my carefully maintained composure. "It's not personal," he attempted, reaching for my hand. "It's just business. The Palmer name has to..." "Don't." I withdrew my hand. "If it's just business, then let's treat it as such." Victor approached, Francine shadowing him with a triumphant smile. "Natalie, we hope you understand. Wesley is a Palmer. The company has always been meant for him." "Of course," I replied, gathering my materials. "Family first, right? That's always been your motto." "Precisely," Francine nodded. "I'm sure you'll continue to be a valuable assistant to the new CEO." The emphasis on assistant made her meaning clear. I would never be more than that in her eyes. What they didn't know was that I'd long suspected this betrayal might come. The casual dismissals, the credit for my work attributed to Wesley, Francine's constant reminders that I wasn't really family despite 5 years of marriage. So I'd protected myself in ways they couldn't imagine. That evening, Wesley arrived home late, champagne on his breath from celebrating his unearned promotion. He found me in our home office, surprisingly calm. "You're not still upset, are you?" he asked, loosening his tie. "Dad says you can still lead the innovation department. That's what you enjoy anyway, right? The behind-the-scenes stuff?" I smiled faintly. "I've been doing some behind-the-scenes work tonight, actually. Just finalized some paperwork." "That's my Nat. Always working." He kissed the top of my head. "Things won't change between us." I promise. Things already have changed, Wesley. I closed my laptop. I just accepted a position at Meridian Technologies. His smile faltered. Meridian? But they're our biggest competitor. Yes, interesting coincidence. I stood straightening papers on the desk. Did you know that under my employment contract, if I'm passed over for a promotion that was explicitly promised, all non-compete clauses become void? Your father's lawyer drafted it himself. Wesley's face drained of color. You wouldn't. I also had a fascinating call with Catherine Wells today. The venture capitalist? Wesley's voice cracked. What does she have to do with anything? She's very interested in the patent applications I filed 6 months ago, the ones for the proprietary technology that's been driving Palmer's recent success. I removed a frame from the wall, my first patent certificate. The technology I developed on my own time using my own resources, that Palmer has been using under a licensing agreement, which, interestingly, terminates if I leave the company. Wesley sank into a chair. Dad will fight this. We'll sue. With what evidence? Every board meeting where your father promised me the CEO position is recorded as part of corporate governance. Every email where he confirmed my trajectory is archived. Every patent application has my name on it, not Palmer Industries. I leaned against the desk. But here's what I'm proposing instead. After laying out my terms, I gave Wesley a choice. Help facilitate an emergency board meeting tomorrow morning or watch me walk away with the AI-driven supply chain optimization system I developed that now powered 60% of Palmer's operations. By midnight, he was making calls to board members, arranging the 7 a.m. meeting I'd demanded. The emergency board meeting the next morning was Wesley's idea. At least that's what he told his father. Board members gathered, confused by the urgency, while Victor fumed about proper procedures, and Francine whispered furiously to Wesley, "This better be important," Victor growled as the last member took their seat. "We have a transition to manage." Wesley cleared his throat. Yesterday's announcement was premature. Victor's eyes narrowed. What are you talking about? I've realized I'm not the right person to lead Palmer Industries, Wesley continued, his rehearsed speech delivered with surprising conviction. In fact, there's only one person with the vision and expertise to take this company forward. He gestured toward me, Natalie Palmer. The room erupted in confusion. Francine's outraged "What?" cutting through the murmurs while Victor's face darkened dangerously. Have you lost your mind? Victor hissed at his son. This is a family company. And Natalie is family, Wesley replied. More importantly, she's the reason this company still exists. He distributed folders to each board member. These documents outline Natalie's contributions over the past 3 years, including the proprietary technology she developed and licensed to us, technology that generates 60% of our current revenue. The board members flipped through the pages with increasing concern as Wesley continued. Additionally, you'll find a letter from Meridian Technologies offering Natalie the CEO position, effective immediately, along with acquisition of her patents. Finally, there's a term sheet from Catherine Wells venture capital firm offering to fund Natalie in establishing her own company with these technologies as the foundation. Victor slammed his hand on the table. This is blackmail. No, I interjected calmly. This is business. Just business. Isn't that what you said, Wesley? The board chair, Elizabeth, who had remained silent until now, adjusted her glasses. Let me understand correctly. The technology driving our recent success belongs to Natalie personally, not Palmer Industries. Licensed to Palmer under specific conditions, I confirmed. Conditions that include my continued employment in an executive capacity. Another board member spoke up. And if you leave? The license terminates, the technology goes with me, and based on current valuations, Palmer Industries loses approximately 60% of its market value overnight. The room fell silent as the implications became clear. Victor's face contorted with rage, while Francine seemed on the verge of collapse. You planned this all along, Victor accused. Used our family, married my son. I married Wesley because I loved him, I corrected. I saved your company because I'm excellent at what I do. And I protected myself because I recognized that to you, I would never be more than the help, regardless of my contributions. Elizabeth cleared her throat. I move that we reconsider yesterday's appointment and hold a proper vote for the CEO position based on qualifications rather than family connections. The vote was not unanimous, but it was decisive. 7-2, with only Victor and Francine opposing. Within an hour, I was named CEO of Palmer Industries, with Wesley repositioned as Chief Brand Officer, a role better suited to his actual skills in relationship building and public relations. As the board members filed out, Victor remained seated, his empire slipping from his grasp. "You won't get away with this," he muttered. "This company has been in the Palmer family for 3 generations." "And it still is," I replied, gathering my materials. "I'm Natalie Palmer, remember? You just never really saw me as one." 6 months into my tenure as CEO, Palmer Industries stock had risen 43%. The new product line based on my technology had launched to critical acclaim, and the company culture had transformed. Employees who had been overlooked under the old nepotistic structure were now thriving in positions earned through merit rather than connections. Wesley surprisingly excelled in his new role, once freed from expectations he couldn't meet. Our marriage, however, couldn't survive the revelation of his complicity in his parents' betrayal. I filed for divorce 3 weeks after becoming CEO, once I had secured my position. The proceedings moved quickly as neither of us contested the terms, and our divorce was finalized the same week our quarterly earnings exceeded projections by 26%. Victor announced his retirement a month after my appointment, unable to bear watching me lead the company he'd nearly destroyed. Francine still appeared at charity events, claiming credit for mentoring me, a revision of history that amused rather than angered me. The truth was evident in our success. On the anniversary of that fateful board meeting, I received a hand-delivered envelope. Inside was a brief note from Victor. "You were right, I was wrong. The company deserved better than what tradition dictated." It wasn't quite an apology, but it was an acknowledgement, one I hadn't realized I still wanted. That evening, as I walked through the headquarters toward my corner office, the one that had been Victor's for 30 years, I passed the wall of company leaders. New photography had been installed that day, past CEOs in chronological order, with my portrait now hanging at the end. The placard beneath it read simply, "Natalie Palmer, CEO, first for merit, not name." I told the PR team to remove it, that it was too pointed, too personal. They'd insisted it had come directly from the board as a statement of the company's new values. Later, I discovered it had been Wesley's suggestion, perhaps his own form of apology. The company holiday party that December felt different. For the first time, promotions and recognitions were announced based entirely on performance metrics rather than family connections or personal favor. As I presented the awards, I caught sight of a familiar figure at the back of the room, Catherine Wells, the venture capitalist who had unknowingly been my leverage. "I came to see if you made the right choice," she said when I approached her later, "turning down my offer to fund your own company." I gazed around at the transformed organization, the engaged employees, the innovative products, the healthy culture. I already had a company. They just needed to recognize it was mine all along. Catherine laughed. "Well, when you're ready for your next challenge, my offer stands. Though at this rate, you might be acquiring my portfolio companies instead." The following board meeting, I proposed a change to the company bylaws. Leadership positions would be determined by a transparent evaluation process based on qualifications and performance, never family connection. The vote was unanimous, including from the newest board member, Francine, who had taken Victor's seat upon his retirement 5 months after I became CEO. "Family is important," she acknowledged stiffly when questioned about her support, "but so is survival." It was as close to an apology as I would ever receive from her, and it was enough. I had never wanted to destroy the Palmer family legacy, only to prove that merit matters more than marriage certificates or birthrights. Today, Palmer Industries is recognized as an industry leader in both innovation and corporate governance. The company that was nearly bankrupted by nepotism now serves as a case study in meritocratic leadership. As for me, I kept the Palmer name after the divorce, not for Wesley, but because I had earned it. Not as a wife, but as the woman who transformed a failing family business into an empire built on merit rather than bloodlines. Sometimes I think about that board meeting where they tried to dismiss me as merely administrative support. In my office, I keep a small plaque on my desk, visible only to me, that reads, "The most dangerous person in the room is the one you underestimate." It serves as a daily reminder that being underestimated can be your greatest advantage if you're prepared to prove exactly how wrong they were. Before you go, here's a quick bonus for sticking around. If you love learning and growing like I do, you need to try audiobooks. I've got an exclusive deal with Audible. Your first month is completely free. That's access to over 500,000 titles, zero cost to you. All the details are waiting in the description. Don't miss this one. The blood rushed to my face as the words registered. I only ordered for family, my mother-in-law Natalie said with a practiced smile, distributing glistening steaks to everyone at the table except me. 7 plates, 6 family members, and me, with nothing but half-eaten chicken on my plate. The expensive French desserts followed the same pattern, passed to everyone but me. My fingers pressed against the linen napkin in my lap, twisting it until my knuckles turned white. The dining room suddenly felt both vast and suffocating, chandelier light refracting through crystal glasses that I'd polished myself just hours ago. I could feel my heartbeat in my throat as 20 pairs of eyes darted between Natalie and me, waiting. My name is Olivia. I'm 32 and a financial coordinator. This is the story of how I reclaimed my dignity after 7 years of silence. Am I family or not? I asked my husband James, who continued cutting his perfectly rare steak, refusing to meet my eyes. "Don't do this. Not here," he muttered, still chewing. But his avoidance was louder than any response he could have given. The table fell silent, not the comfortable pause between conversations, but the heavy silence of collective discomfort. Aunt Patricia, seated to my left, shifted in her chair. "James," she prompted, her voice gentle but insistent. "Your wife asked you a question." I hadn't planned for this moment, but somewhere deep inside I'd been rehearsing for it for 7 years. Every snub, every whispered comment, every time James had chosen his family's approval over our marriage, all of it crystallized in this deliberate exclusion. We'd met through a mutual friend at a Saturday book club when I was already established in my accounting career at a local supermarket chain, while James was finishing graduate school in public administration. Back then, he'd look at me with quiet admiration. "You're incredible," he'd say. "Working full-time while I'm just writing policy memos makes me feel lazy." I'd smile, believing those words meant something. When he landed a job as a budget analyst at the city clerk's office, we moved into a modest rental just outside the city. That's when I first met his parents, Natalie and William. She wore judgment like her designer perfume, subtle but pervasive. He shook my hand like he expected change in return. His sister Megan, 2 years older than James, had never worked a day in her life and treated this as an accomplishment. Natalie's first words after a long, evaluative scan, "Oh, I thought you'd be taller." William followed with, "Period." "So Olivia, you didn't go to college." The word "didn't" dripped with condescension. I didn't flinch then. I'd had bills at 18 and made my choices. Choices I never regretted until they made me feel like I was constantly justifying my existence. For a while, James defended me. "She works harder than anyone I know," he'd say. "My parents can be a little much, but don't take it personally." I didn't at first. I smiled politely when Natalie brought overpriced pastries just for James. I didn't comment when she turned her nose up at my store brand coffee, but over time, the snubs multiplied while James's defenses faded. "She doesn't even manage investments," I overheard William whisper once, after examining my pay stub that Natalie had somehow acquired from our shared mailbox at the house when they visited. "I don't know how you manage," Megan would say with synthetic sympathy. "I could never do all that grunt work." Sometimes I'd find Natalie rummaging through my drawers under the pretense of looking for a napkin. Once she pulled out my bank ledger and shook her head. "So little savings and no portfolio." Then to James, "You should have married someone with at least a financial plan." Still, I tried. Every holiday, every birthday, every uncomfortable dinner, I showed up. I cooked, cleaned, smiled, poured drinks. One Christmas, I received a regifted candle while everyone else got tailored gifts with cards. No one noticed, not even James. By our 6th year, I saw my marriage for what it had become. I was the hired help with a marriage license. Still, I held on. We didn't have children, but we had history. I thought maybe, with time, we'd find our way back. That foolish hope kept me walking into their home with my head up, even as my heart sank. Last summer, they planned a trip to a lakeside cabin. "Family getaway," Natalie said, telling me to pack. I drove with James to his parents' place only for them to leave without me while I was in the bathroom. Just gone. "Mom said it should be just blood family," James explained later that evening when he returned to our home, as if it were a fact, not an insult. "But I'm your wife." "Yeah," he said, "but you're not blood." The words cut deeper than he knew, or maybe he did know and didn't care. Now came the annual family lunch in August with all the extended relatives flying in. By some miracle, my store gave the entire team 3 days off for wellness reform. I should have gone to the beach. Instead, I was drafted into service. Natalie called the night before. "You'll help with prep. Guests expect a certain standard." Standard meant I was up at 6 a.m., chopping, dusting, vacuuming, wiping fingerprints off wine glasses. While James and his parents sipped espresso on the patio, I ironed linen napkins. Megan waltzed in at noon and said, "Don't forget the vegan option for Aunt Caroline," then disappeared. By lunch, exhaustion had settled into my bones. My arms ached, my back throbbed. I hadn't even had coffee. Guests arrived warm and loud. I forced a smile, ushered them to their seats, topped off drinks, reheated sauces. James didn't help. When I quietly asked him to carry out the roast, he muttered, "You're doing fine." It wasn't until everyone was seated and food was being passed that I finally allowed myself to sit down. That's when Natalie stood. "I have a surprise," she announced with a saccharine smile, "just for family." She disappeared into the kitchen and returned with a tray. 7 perfect filet mignons, cooked rare and glistening. She handed them one by one to William, Megan, James, and 3 other relatives. And for dessert, she held up a glossy white box. Imported French tarts, just for the family, of course. Everyone oohed and clapped except me. There was no 7th plate, no dessert for me. Just my half-eaten roast chicken from the first round. Now, as my question hung in the air and James refused to answer, something inside me finally broke free. Not with a snap, but with a quiet certainty that rushed through me like a wave. "Oh, I think this is exactly the place," I said, my voice steady despite my trembling hands. "This isn't about steak or desserts. It's about how I've been treated for 7 years, like a tenant in your son's life, like the outsider you all never wanted." William scoffed. "No one ever said you weren't welcome." "No," I replied. "You just said I wasn't educated. Not polished, not family material. You said it with every side eye, every backhanded compliment. Every time you went through my private things looking for reasons to belittle me." Megan snorted. "You're being dramatic." I turned to her, ice crystallizing in my veins. "You've never worked a day in your life. I've carried this marriage financially for nearly a year, while your brother lies about going to work every morning. So I think I've earned the right to be dramatic." James's head snapped up. "Olivia, shut up." "Or what?" I asked. "You'll lose your precious image? Hate to break it to you, but everyone's about to find out you haven't had a job since last fall." Now all eyes were on him. Natalie blinked. "What is she talking about?" James stammered, but no words came. I leaned forward, pulse steady in my wrists. He was fired from the city clerk's office after a massive error in the tax forms. They sent hundreds of residents incorrect invoices, some underbilled by thousands. James was in charge of final reviews. I paused, letting the revelation sink in. "He didn't tell you because, well, you were too busy judging my coffee." "That's not true," James said quickly, but even he looked unconvinced. Since then, I've paid every bill, every grocery run. I've covered rent, utilities, car maintenance, while he played job hunt on his laptop and secretly applied for positions he was underqualified for. A heavy silence spread like oil across the table. Aunt Patricia looked down at her plate, then at James. Is this true? James stood abruptly. This is insane. You're trying to humiliate me. No, James, I said. You did that to yourself when you sat there and let your mother deny me a plate like I'm the help. Natalie slammed her glass down. You don't talk to my son like that. And you don't talk to me like I'm disposable. I reached into my bag and pulled out a thin manila folder. It made a soft thwack when I placed it in front of James. What's this? He asked, voice suddenly uncertain. Draft separation papers, I said. I already spoke with an attorney last week after deciding I couldn't continue living like this. I'm not waiting for your permission. The room froze again. Even Megan stopped mid-bite. You're overreacting, William finally said. Am I? You think I didn't notice the way you'd sigh whenever I walked into a room? The way you'd glance at my hands like you were checking for dirt? Megan jumped in, her voice sharp. You're just mad because you'll never fit in with us. You never had class, Olivia. I smiled slightly. And yet, I'm the only one here who knows how to pay a mortgage. Natalie shot up from her chair. You think this makes you superior? You're a cashier's clerk. Accounting officer, I corrected her, at a chain that just promoted me to regional finance coordinator. And unlike your son, I actually read documents before I signed them. James pushed the folder back toward me. You're not doing this. Oh, I am. His voice cracked. You're really going to throw away our marriage because of one lunch? No, I said quietly. I'm walking away because I've been treated like a stranger in my own life, because you let them grind me down until I forgot I had options. He stared at me like he didn't recognize me. Maybe he didn't. Maybe I hadn't let him. I turned to Aunt Patricia. I'm sorry you had to witness this. She placed her napkin down gently. Don't apologize, dear. You've shown more grace than most would in your position. Then she looked at Natalie. And you? You should be ashamed. You humiliated your daughter-in-law in front of your entire family. She's not my daughter-in-law anymore, Natalie spat. I nodded. And you'll never have the chance again. James's voice dropped to a whisper. You really mean it? You're leaving me? I didn't answer. I just stood, walked to the kitchen, grabbed my purse from the hook by the door, and returned to the dining room. I'll be sending official papers this week, I said. Natalie folded her arms. Don't expect sympathy from anyone. Aunt Patricia stood. Actually, Natalie, I think you'll find the family feels otherwise. What do you mean? I mean, we're tired of the drama, the belittling, the cruelty masked as tradition. I won't be attending your Christmas brunch this year. You can't be serious. Patricia looked around the table. A few cousins nodded in agreement. I am. I turned to leave. James tried one last time. Olivia, don't do this, please. I paused at the doorway. You had 7 years to treat me like family, I said without turning. You chose silence. And then I walked out. The walk to my car was the quietest 10 seconds of my life. No shouting, no footsteps behind me, no last-minute apologies, just the click of my heels and the rush of August heat rising from the driveway. As I stepped outside into the heat, the weight of what just happened settled on my shoulders. I didn't cry. I didn't even look back. 20 minutes later, I pulled into our driveway. No, my driveway now. I had already texted my lawyer to move forward. The folder was real. The conversations were real. I just hadn't expected to use them quite so soon, but I didn't need to delay anymore. The final straw hadn't been steak. It had been silence. James's silence. That week was a blur of paperwork and iced coffee. I moved into the guest bedroom and kept my distance. James kept trying to play it down like this was a fight, not a fracture. People divorce over cheating, not over lunch, he said. You're being theatrical. But something in him knew. He stopped going out, stopped pretending to job hunt. He just sat there. Meanwhile, I stayed busy. I accepted the promotion offer from my company's main office. Regional finance coordinator, full salary bump, flexible work from home options. I'd be relocating in 3 months. I didn't tell James. Why should I? What I did tell him was the court date. Our mediation was scheduled for September 9th. I'd filed no fault, but under the surface, there was plenty of fault. 3 days before the hearing, I got a call from Aunt Patricia. We'd exchanged numbers at previous family gatherings, and she'd always been the one relative who treated me with genuine warmth. "I just wanted you to know," she said. "You weren't the only one who saw it. What they did to you at that lunch, that was a reckoning." Apparently, word had spread fast. The cousins and other in-laws who'd sat awkwardly through the meal were furious after I left. A few confronted Natalie directly, others simply left early. Patricia had shared everything with the rest of the extended family through their family group chat, where Natalie's behavior became the main topic of discussion. Her words, she told me, were simple. "You don't starve someone and call it hospitality." Natalie and William had been politely uninvited from 2 upcoming weddings. Megan, who'd once bragged that everyone wants her at events, hadn't received an RSVP in weeks. Reputation, it turned out, didn't come with immunity, and as for James, he was unraveling. I came home one night to find him drinking on the couch, eyes glazed over. "This is what you wanted, right?" he slurred. "Burn it all down." "No," I said. "I just stopped pretending the ashes were flowers." On September 9th, I arrived at the courthouse for our mediation. James wore a too tight suit and wouldn't look me in the eye. I wore navy blue, kept my hair up, and brought every receipt, transfer, and bank statement I'd covered during the year he was unemployed. My lawyer didn't have to say much. The numbers spoke for themselves. At the end of the session, James looked at me like he might say something real. Instead, he said, "I can't believe you're doing this to me." I stood. "No, James, I can't believe you did this to me." When the divorce was finalized 3 weeks later on September 30th, I didn't throw a party. The judge had ordered James to repay half of what I'd covered during his unemployment, which would come in monthly installments from whatever job he eventually found. I went home, ordered Indian takeout, and slept for 12 hours straight. The silence felt different now. It felt earned. Weeks passed. Natalie tried damage control. She sent a vague apology email with phrases like, "I'm sorry if you were hurt," and "We've all said things we didn't mean." I didn't reply. I archived it and moved on. 3 months after the divorce was finalized, in late December, the promotion meant I relocated 2 states over into a bright apartment with a southern-facing balcony and a dishwasher that didn't rattle. I'd updated my contact information with only those who needed to know: my bank, my employer, and Aunt Patricia, who had become something of a friend. My coworkers sent me plants and welcome baskets. My new manager said, "We've heard nothing but great things." It was the first time in years I'd been recognized for who I was, not who I wasn't. One night in late January, my phone buzzed. Unknown number. It was James. He'd gotten my new number from a mutual friend who knew about my promotion and move. "I just wanted to say I miss you," he said, his voice quiet. I didn't answer. "I think we got lost. I should have said something that day. Should have stood up." "James," I said, "you had 7 years." "I know. I was scared." "Of who? Your mother?" "Of everything." There was a long pause. "I've been thinking about coming to see you. Talk face to face." I looked out the window at my new skyline. "No need," I said. Everything I needed to hear, I heard in that dining room. He didn't argue, just let it hang. Before he could ask anything more, I added, "I'm not angry anymore, James. I just don't belong to that life, and it doesn't belong to me." He exhaled. "So that's it. That's it." Then I hung up, and I stood in the middle of my kitchen for a few minutes, just listening. No shouting, no footsteps, no dry remarks or tapping nails. Just me, my apartment, and a basil plant that desperately needed watering. Some things don't need to be said out loud to cut you open, and some silences heal. Before you go, here's a quick bonus for sticking around. If you love learning and growing like I do, you need to try audiobooks. I've got an exclusive deal with Audible. Your first month is completely free. That's access to over 500,000 titles, zero cost to you. All the details are waiting in the description. Don't miss this one. The phone slipped from my fingers, hitting the desk with a dull thud as the notification burned into my retinas. You have been removed from Walton Family Chat by admin Gabriel Walton. My lungs seized mid-breath. The Delta Airlines operation screen in front of me blurred. Hundreds of passenger manifests faded behind a film of disbelief. In one browser tab, my employee portal showed 15 first-class buddy passes reserved for next month's Hawaii trip. It was my in-laws' 50th anniversary celebration I'd spent months arranging. In another tab was the new chat Gabriel had created immediately after removing me. Important family info. Everyone was there. My husband Ryan, his parents, his 3 siblings, their spouses, even Gabriel's girlfriend of barely 6 months. Everyone except me. The only message said, "Family only in this chat, discussing mom and dad's 50th anniversary trip to Hawaii. No need to involve outsiders." Outsiders. After 12 years of marriage, 2 children, and countless family gatherings where I'd been the one everyone relied on. My fingers curled into my palm. Fingernails created perfect half-moons of pressure as I struggled to contain the volcanic heat rising through my chest. My name is Olivia. I'm 34 and a senior operations manager at Delta Airlines. This is the story of how I taught my in-laws that family isn't determined by whoever controls the group chat. For a decade, I'd been the Walton family's personal travel concierge. My employee access meant first-class upgrades when available. It meant companion passes that saved thousands. It meant hotel partnerships with deep discounts and booking privileges most travelers didn't even know existed. I maintained a meticulous spreadsheet tracking every flight, every upgrade, every hotel discount. It was a spreadsheet no one but me fully understood. Ryan texted privately, "Honey, Gabriel's being dramatic about the divorce stuff." You know how he is. I did know. Gabriel, my brother-in-law, was getting divorced and had decided anyone who maintained contact with his soon-to-be ex-wife, Natalie, was disloyal. My crime? Answering when she called about their daughter's birthday party. A 5-minute conversation about cupcake flavors had apparently erased 12 years of family membership. "It's fine," I texted back, though my hands trembled as I pulled up the family travel spreadsheet. Hawaii trip, second week of March. 15 tickets with first-class upgrade requests already waitlisted through my employee priority. Hotel employee rates at 60% off through our partnership program. Inter-island flights on Hawaiian Airlines using my reciprocal benefits. Total savings, approximately $35,000. With 3 clicks, I archived the spreadsheet and closed it. "Olivia, you okay?" My colleague James glanced at me, concerned. "You're doing that scary quiet thing." "I'm fine. Just some family drama." "The in-laws again?" He rolled his eyes. "I swear you do too much for those people." He had no idea. For 3 weeks, I watched the important family info chat from Ryan's phone when he wasn't looking. They were planning everything. Restaurants, activities, matching T-shirts. Gabriel had appointed himself trip coordinator, collecting money for deposits and shared expenses. "Got us a great deal on the flights," he announced. $400 each round trip. My travel agent friend hooked us up. I nearly choked. Those were my employee buddy passes, the ones I'd already arranged that he was now claiming credit for. "Don't forget the hotel discount," added Fiona, my mother-in-law. "My coworker's daughter works for Marriott and got us 20% off." That was my employee rate through Delta's partnership program. 60% off, not 20. But sure, let's go with that fiction. Ryan looked at me nervously that evening. "You're still handling the actual bookings, right?" "I know Gabriel's being an ass, but..." "Am I family, Ryan?" I interrupted, my voice unnervingly calm. "Of course you are. Then why am I not in the family chat?" "That's just Gabriel being..." "It's your parents' anniversary. Are they okay with me being excluded from the planning?" His silence was answer enough. "I'll handle what I've already committed to," I lied smoothly. "The buddy passes are already in the system." They weren't. Buddy passes require activation by the employee, and I hadn't processed them yet. But Ryan didn't know airline systems well enough to understand that distinction. 2 weeks before the trip, the texts started. Fiona. Hi, sweetheart. Quick question about the flights. Do we need to do anything special to check in? I didn't respond. Ryan's sister, Kelsey. Hey, the hotel is asking for an employee ID number for the rate. Can you send? Silence. Gabriel's wife, Patricia, supposedly neutral in the divorce drama. Olivia, can you check if we can upgrade to first class? Gabriel said you might have connections. Nothing. Finally, Ryan confronted me. You're getting the texts, right? About the trip. What trip? The Hawaii? His expression tightened. Olivia, come on, don't be petty. I'm not being petty. I'm respecting the family's wishes. I pulled up the screenshot I'd saved. See? Family only. Very clear. The panic started 5 days before departure. Delta's system shows buddy passes as pending until the employee activates them. The family had been checking in online, seeing their reservations, assuming everything was fine. Then Gabriel tried to change his seat. What do you mean the reservation isn't ticketed? I heard him shouting through Ryan's phone. I have a confirmation number. Ryan looked at me, his face draining of color. Olivia, the flights, they're not actually booked. I raised my eyebrows. I have no idea. I'm not in the family chat, remember? I assumed Gabriel's travel agent friend was handling it, the one who got him such a great deal. Olivia, please. My parents. Your parents who haven't said a single word about me being excluded from planning their anniversary celebration? This is serious. We're supposed to leave in 5 days. Then you should probably talk to Gabriel's travel agent. The family group chat exploded. Ryan left his phone on the counter and I watched the messages roll in. Gabriel. The airline says we have pending employee passes that were never activated. What does that mean? Fiona. Marina handles our flights. Someone ask her. Gabriel. I thought my friend booked these through his agency. Kelsey. No, you said you were handling it, but Olivia had already set up employee passes. Gabriel. Well, I can't activate employee passes. I don't work for Delta. Patricia. Just call Olivia. Gabriel. No, she chose Natalie's side in the divorce. She's not family anymore. Fiona. Gabriel Walton, you removed her from our family chat. The cascading realizations were beautiful to watch, like dominoes falling, each family member suddenly understanding that their $400 buddy passes required an actual Delta employee to activate them, that their hotel reservations were tied to an employee ID, that their meticulously planned, deeply discounted vacation was entirely dependent on the outsider they'd excluded. Ryan's phone rang. His mother. Put Olivia on. I took the phone. Hello, Fiona. Sweetheart, there seems to be some confusion about the flights. Oh, I thought Gabriel's travel agent was handling everything. I didn't want to overstep, not being family and all. Silence. Then, you know your family. Do I? Because family members are usually included in family planning. I must have misunderstood when I was removed from the group chat. That was Gabriel being foolish. That was Gabriel being Gabriel and everyone else being fine with it, including you and Harold. More silence. Can you fix the flights? Can I? Yes. Will I? That depends. On what? On whether I'm family or an outsider. Because I use my employee benefits for family. I help family. I spend hours arranging travel for family. But I don't do any of that for people who exclude me when it's convenient and only remember I exist when they need something. Ryan was gesturing frantically at me to stop. I ignored him. Olivia, please! We're supposed to leave in 5 days. And I was supposed to be included in planning my in-laws' anniversary trip. Guess we're both disappointed. I hung up. The next 4 days were chaos. Delta flights to Hawaii were booking up for spring break. Without employee passes, the family was looking at $1,200 to $1,800 per person for last-minute tickets. The hotel informed them that the employee rate was no longer valid, quoting them full price, $1,500 a night instead of $200. The family chat became a war zone. Ryan showed me screenshots. Harold, father-in-law. This is what happens when you let petty grudges get in the way of family. Gabriel. I'm not apologizing to someone who betrayed me. Kelsey. You betrayed all of us by removing her without asking. Patricia. Maybe if we all apologize. Fiona. The trip is ruined. 50 years of marriage and we can't even celebrate properly because my children can't act like adults. Ryan begged. Please, Olivia. My mom is crying. It's their 50th anniversary and they let me be excluded from planning it. Your brother decided I wasn't family and everyone went along with it. Now they're facing the consequences. So you're really going to ruin their anniversary over a group chat? I'm not ruining anything. I'm just not fixing what they broke. There's a difference. This is vindictive. No, vindictive would be actively canceling their reservations. I'm just choosing not to use my employment benefits for people who don't consider me family. That's called boundaries. On day 3 before departure, Gabriel cracked. Not because he felt bad, but because his kids were crying about missing Hawaii. The doorbell rang that evening. I opened the door to find Gabriel standing there, hands in pockets, looking uncomfortable. I'm sorry, he said through gritted teeth. For what? For removing you from the chat and calling you an outsider. He looked confused when I didn't immediately respond. What else? I asked. Figure it out, Gabriel. And until you do, enjoy explaining to your kids why their Hawaii trip got canceled because Uncle Gabriel thought being petty was more important than family. He left, furious. The breaking point came when my sister-in-law's husband, Diego, the only other in-law who'd always been kind to me, texted privately. Olivia, I get it. They did you dirty. But my kids don't understand why their cousins aren't going to Hawaii anymore. Is there anything I can do? I liked Diego. He'd been the only one to text me after I was removed from the chat, saying it was messed up. You want honest advice? I replied. Book your own tickets today. Take your family and go without them. Prices are only going up. That would cause World War III. Or it would teach them that actions have consequences. Your choice. He did it. Booked 4 tickets on Southwest, found a decent hotel, and announced in the family chat that his family was still going to Hawaii since the group trip seemed to be canceled. The explosion was nuclear. Fiona called Ryan, screaming. How could Olivia help Diego but not them? It wasn't fair. It was favoritism. It is, I said when Ryan relayed this. It's what happens when you treat people differently. Ryan finally snapped at his mother. Diego never agreed with kicking Olivia out. You all just went along with Gabriel, so yeah, she helped the one person who stood up for her. Deal with it. I was proud of him for that. 2 days before the trip that wasn't, I got a new notification. Gabriel Walton added you to Walton Family Chat. The first message was from Gabriel. Olivia, his family. I was wrong. I'm sorry for letting my divorce drama affect everyone. Can we please fix this? Followed by Fiona. We're sorry too. You've always been family. Harold. What Gabriel did was wrong. We should have stopped it. Kelsey. I'm sorry I didn't speak up. Patricia. We were cowards. I'm sorry. I let it sit for an hour. Then I responded. I appreciate the apologies, but you've had 3 weeks to make this right. You only care now because you need something. That's not family. That's transactional. Diego and his family have a lovely trip planned. I suggest the rest of you use this as a learning experience for next time. P.S. Gabriel, my choosing sides in your divorce was answering the phone when the mother of your child called about their birthday. If that threatens you, the problem isn't me. Then I left the chat myself. Diego's family had an amazing time in Hawaii. He sent me photos of the kids on the beach, at Luaus, hiking Diamond Head. He'd even managed to get a partial employee rate at a partner hotel because I'd made a call. The rest of the family stayed home, fighting about whose fault it was. Ryan showed me the messages. Gabriel blaming me, Kelsey blaming Gabriel, Fiona blaming everyone, Harold telling them all to grow up. Ryan and I had some serious conversations during this time about family dynamics and boundaries. Though it was tense at first, we came to a stronger understanding about supporting each other. He admitted he should have stood up for me immediately, instead of trying to keep the peace, and we agreed that going forward, we'd present a united front in family matters. Our marriage actually strengthened through this ordeal. A month after the canceled Hawaii trip, we gathered at Fiona and Harold's house for Easter dinner. I brought my famous sweet potato casserole, the one they always requested. Gabriel could barely look at me. Kelsey overcompensated with chattiness. Diego gave me a subtle fist bump. During dessert, Fiona cleared her throat. We've decided to try again for Hawaii for our 51st anniversary. Olivia, could you help us plan it properly this time? I'll help coordinate, I said carefully. But everyone books and pays for their own tickets. I'll provide employee discount codes where applicable, but I won't be managing anyone's travel. That's fair, Harold said quickly. And, I continued, the planning happens in a group chat that includes everyone. No secret chats, no exclusions. The first time someone creates a family-only chat that excludes any spouse, I'm out. They agreed. 8 months after the original canceled trip, we all boarded separate flights to Hawaii for Fiona and Harold's 51st anniversary celebration. The trip happened smoothly, with everyone paying full price for their flights. It was still a discount, but not the free rides they'd gotten used to. Diego and I coordinated together, and it went wonderfully. Gabriel even apologized again, properly, this time. His divorce had finalized with joint custody of his daughter, and he'd realized how much his bitterness had cost everyone. I was so angry about losing my family that I tried to break everyone else's, he admitted. Just remember that next time you want to decide who is and isn't family, I told him. After this conversation, Gabriel and I reached an understanding. While we weren't close friends, we established a respectful relationship that allowed family gatherings to function smoothly. The family chat still exists. I'm still in it. But now everyone knows that family only includes everyone who's part of the family, whether by blood, marriage, or choice. And they definitely know that excluding the person who handles your travel benefits is a costly mistake. As for my employee benefits, I still use them for family, real family, the ones who don't need a canceled vacation to remember that I belong. Though I'd be lying if I said I didn't enjoy watching them learn that lesson the hard way. Sometimes the best teachable moments come at 30,000 feet, or in this case, from never leaving the ground at all. Before you go, here's a quick bonus for sticking around. If you love learning and growing like I do, you need to try audiobooks. I've got an exclusive deal with Audible. Your first month is completely free. That's access to over 500,000 titles, zero cost to you. All the details are waiting in the description. Don't miss this one.